As we told you, the federal probe into insider trading widened to subpoenas served to Janus, SAC Capital, and also Wellington. With me now is a former federal prosecutor who is an expert in insider trading cases, LT Lafferty. He heads up white-collar crime at FOWLER, BOGGS. And LT, thanks so much for joining us. You know, the fact that we're now seeing subpoenas and that it's heading to mutual funds, what does this tell you about the FBI probe?
Well, it tells me that the investigation has progressed. We know that the SEC issued some administrative subpoenas last fall, but what we're seeing now, though, is a criminal investigation through the execution of search warrants and grand jury subpoenas. And the fact that it's turned to a criminal investigation is significant.
Does it tell you, then, that arrests are likely shortly after this?
It could be. Insiders do predict that arrests could be in the near future. Certainly when they move to a criminal investigation, that's a significant development. Typically in an insider trading case or any securities fraud case, the SEC will initiate the investigation. It'll be an administrative investigation until evidence of criminal intent or willfulness is developed, and then they'll refer that case to the U.S. Attorney's Office. In this case, we know that the U.S. Attorney is very actively involved at this point. Very active indeed.
You know, when you say in the near future, what are we talking about, LT? In a few days, a few weeks?
Well, it's hard to predict for sure. You know, certainly I wouldn't be surprised to see some charges by the end of the year or within the next 6 months. I would be surprised if something happened over the holiday weekend or during the holidays, of course. So I wouldn't be surprised if in early 2011 or sometimes during the next year we'll see some criminal charges. But don't be surprised if you only see a few criminal charges as well. It's very typical for the government to announce a broad industry investigation to try to scare people straight, if you will. And the U.S. Attorney in Manhattan has made it very clear that he thinks insider trading is pervasive in the industry right now. But that doesn't mean you're going to see a lot of criminal charges.
Right. I mean, the Manhattan U.S. Attorney, Preet Bharara, has said that insider trading is rampant on Wall Street.
That's right. And this whole broad investigation of the industry is an attempt to clean up that industry, if you will, or to scare it straight. Now, it's likely that you'll see some criminal charges because some people have, in fact, already pled guilty to insider trading. And it's apparent that they're flipping and giving information on other individuals, particularly from one hedge fund firm. But don't be surprised if you see more administrative and civil resolutions and settlements than you do criminal cases.
So does this smell like then to you, LT, that this is just some individual insider trading ring or rings rather than a whole sort of systemic problem of insider trading?
Well, actually, I think it could be both. You could have several individuals that are actually trying to benefit from that confidential information and are actually willfully perpetrating inside information. But I think what the government is concerned about is the developments, especially with these expert networks that are providing consulting services to investors. And they want to make sure that these expert networks are on the up and up, if you will, and that they're not trading confidential information, but just providing a legitimate service.
Isn't that in some way manageable to monitor? I mean, couldn't you just record, for instance, these phone calls or have witnesses to these? Couldn't you just do that with these types of expert, phone calls between these companies and the consultants and the experts?
Well, absolutely. In most mutual funds or other financial services, you're going to record those telephone calls for that exact purpose. But the expert networks, those telephone calls are not recorded, and that creates some problems.
And could you do it, though?
Absolutely. Well, the government could try to pass regulations to closer scrutinize this industry or these expert consultants and require those telephone calls to be recorded so that they can track them and ensure no misappropriation of information occurs.
And LT, why do you think the FBI is suddenly interested? It seems, I know it's a 3-year investigation, but just now interested in these expert networks.
Well, what happens is in any investigation, particularly by the SEC, they're going to develop evidence, and they've issued subpoenas over a year ago. As that evidence is developed, when they develop enough evidence that they believe that there's probable cause of willfulness, then the U.S. Attorney is going to be involved. They're going to issue grand jury subpoenas and search warrants.
LT, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you, LT Lafferty.